2022 for the Village of Sister Bay. Denise Berto is excused. Janelle, will you handle roll call, please?
Dashke,
Here.
Bell is
Here.
okay. Gretzmacher,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
and Schmitz.
Here.
Okay, do we have any comments or concerns from the public on a non-agenda item?
We do. Yes, we do.
Please just state your name and address, and we look forward to hearing from you, sir.
Okay. It's Andrew and Jane Hendrickson, 10649 Chalet Lane. And I'm requesting to speak about item number 3 on the agenda. There are 4 homeowners on Chalet Lane, and 3 of the 4 of the property owners, which Chalet Lane has been a
Hold on a second here. This is an agenda item. This is not the
This is an
time to talk
agenda
about-
item, sir,
Right.
so you wait until the agenda item comes up, and we'll have an opportunity to allow comments for agenda items if we grant those at that time. This is comments and correspondence, or excuse me, this is comments or concerns regarding a non-agenda item.
Right, I understand that, and I made myself clear at the beginning. I'll wait until agenda number 3.
Yeah, then you just wait until number 3 and we'll take care of it then.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anything else from anyone? Okay, Janelle, would you summarize correspondence for us, please?
Okay. There were emails that were received from Jerry Aarons and Tom Wylam. In their emails, Mr. Aarons and Mr. Wylam expressed concerns they have about potential light pollution in problems in the village. There was also an email that was received from Richard Vett. In his email, Mr. Vett asked that village officials explain how a project like the motel rental facility Richard and Jeannie Hoffman will be constructing can proceed on a private road. There were also 2 emails that were received from Andrew Hendrickson. In those emails, Mr. Hendrickson requests that he be allowed to make a presentation to the Plan Commission regarding the concerns he and his wife, as well as Rolly and Rick Vett, who all own homes on Chalet Lane, which is a private road, have about the motel rental Richard and Jeannie Hoffman will be constructing on Chalet Lane. And that's all the correspondence we have.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. I will motion that we approve the agenda as published.
I second.
Second by Gretzmacher. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I will also motion that we approve the minutes as published for the April 26, 2022 meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Business item number 1, discussion regarding a request from Maya and Hannah Mickelson for permission to conduct pop-up markets at Goose and Twigs Inn and Coffee Shop, which establishment is located at 2322 Mill Road during the 2022 season. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. I'm going to turn this one over to Amy Bennett, our interim zoning administrator, and in reference to her report that begins on page 20 in our packet. Amy? You're on mute still, Amy.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Let me just share the screen and I can, it looks like screen sharing is disabled. Whoever's hosting the Zoom, if
Go
there's
ahead.
something. Okay, I'll try again. Thank you. Let's see here. See if I can get this reduced a little bit. So yes, we have a request from Hannah Michelson for a pop-up market at Goose and Twigs and Coffee Shop at 2322 Mill Road in the B3 Downtown Business District. This was a referral from the Parks Committee this evening for this item. If you see in the staff report, I have included a definition of the flea market. As I understand, that is how this proposal is being looked at from the zoning code based on that referral from the Parks Committee. Our recommendation is approval, subject to dates and times of events as specified on the application, keeping a public sidewalk clear and open during events. All display areas shall be removed after each sale, and any necessary tent permits and any other building permits as required. And the tent section also is included in the staff report. Again, the applicant is proposing a shop 5 times in 2022, June 3rd, July 1, August 5, September 2nd, and October 7, with between 6 to 9 vendors each date to be held from 3 to 7 p.m. Evening. Here's a location map showing the existing site, and the applicant submitted let me just scroll through here. Let me see if I can make this a little easier. I want to get to that floor plan that was submitted as well. Oh, my computer's slowing down here. We're having trouble scrolling. Okay, here we go. This is a description of the vendors submitted, and then we'll get to that floor plan.
There it is.
Yep.
You did that.
Simple.
See if I can get it to look. Just trying to rotate it here, but it's not liking that request.
Tube station alert has arrived.
I would just ask my fellow Plan Commission members, is everyone familiar enough with the drawing from the packet or being able to reference it in the packet?
Yeah, it's not liking my request to rotate the document here. So it is in your packet if it's easier to look at it.
Yeah, the drawings on, it's page 26 of the packet. If you want to reference it, okay?
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Amy. I will open up this item for discussion among Plan Commission members.
Well, I have concerns about the whole idea of a pop-up market. We, I believe, had an incident last fall with a tent that popped up on the Door Hotel property selling beer. And I believe we decided that it was not included in our ordinance description of tents and the use of tents for outdoor selling. And then I have big concerns about the parking that is designated. Almost all the parking that is designated belongs to somebody else and will be used by somebody else during the event. So I have some real concerns. I'm not sure. I don't think that an outdoor market fits the ordinance being cited.
And Marge, I would say that what I'm hearing you underscore in essence is that that in Amy's report, the zoning code subset D7 about temporary tents, that's D7 makes clear to provide shade or shelter, not,
Right.
Not to go along with the sale of merchandise or items.
I
whether-
think that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's stretching it tremendously.
And what I did not see in Amy's report, Janelle may be able to read it to us if she has a reference on it. In that section of the code 66.0300 subset D6, to my recollection, is the area of the code that speaks to the use of tents for selling things or stuff be that whatever it is allowed during village-wide special events. Janelle, do you have that handy to read that section?
Yeah, it's section 66.0302 sub D sub 6. And it states that the temporary sale of goods from a truck, trailer, table, or tent shall only be permitted as part of a festival permit that has been authorized by the village board and or the Parks, Property and Streets Committee. And that's why that it was initially referred to parks.
Okay.
And I think that's applicable, and this does not meet that definition.
So if we don't have tents,
I don't know if they can hear
Pardon?
us.
Pardon me?
So when it comes to the tents, I mean, just to make options, we can obviously like use sandbags to hold the tents down, make sure everybody has their own weight distribution, or since the goal is to be outside because it's so nice out. So if anything, we might not even need the tents, if that's the main issue.
and parking isn't an issue.
And
'cause we have
parking,
two-
yeah, we discussed parking in the last meeting as well, and we were, we have parking in the back lots here, we have an extra 5 lots. We have, space down the road as well, and then we also have, it's more for people kind of walking and strolling, people, already in the area as well. And then as well, we were going to have all the vendors pay for the fee, a spot for the fee, and all the money would be donations to the Door County Library, and we're gonna discuss with the library.
We actually have discussed with the library and they are very open
Open
to
to
us.
having,
viewing
parking spots.
Parking
as well.
spots as our donations would be towards the library at the end of the season.
Still have concerns.
And it's,
I
It's
was
for
not,
cheaper thought, yeah.
I was not on the plan commission back in time when I believe perhaps Nate or Marge or Janelle, you'll recall this, but I believe there was an instance that came up, or there were a series of instances that came up with somebody utilizing driveway or sidewalk or street areas for repetitive type rummage sale without a rummage sale.
Yard
going
sale.
on. And I
A yard
believe,
sale, yes.
yeah, and that led to some part of the code that exists now that deals with that, or am I mistaken?
I feel like that's kind of different than what we're doing.
yeah,
I
we're
don't
not
know.
on any.
I don't think
Well,
that's,
I'm
on
only
private
bringing
property.
that up because if you're
yeah,
shifting gears from a presentation about wanting tents to now saying, well, it would be okay if there's no tents, we just want to
We
sell.
do
well, it's more,
want
the
tents.
focus is just for the markets and to support local artists here in Door County, so they'd be able to, people would kind of come in, get Door County items, and it'd help the local artisans as well.
It's very similar to what 12 Provisions is doing in
Yep,
Sister
12
Bay.
Yeah,
A lot
same
of the
thing.
vendors we're working with from 12 Provisions that have had pop-ups at their establishment, and I'm not sure how they have gone about getting their okay to have it there. It's similar
not
to
sure
what they're doing.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
The 12 Provisions on 57 has pop-ups. They have one every Monday evening.
Who? The 12
12
provisions. Who are the-
Provisions.
What is that?
It's
Yeah,
the
what is
wine
that?
bar.
I've never heard of.
It's
Yeah.
12/11, Marge.
12/11, is
They're
that what
talking
it's
about
called?
12/11?
Yeah.
Okay. I was not aware that 12/11 was having a pop-up event.
Oh, they've been having
They've
it.
been having it
Yep.
all
All
winter.
winter, yes, yep.
Inside or outside?
In the winter it was inside, now they're having it outside.
Well, then they're gonna
It's
have.
Where
from 12/11. Yeah, we had a pop-up inside our wine bar all winter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Well,
that's
that's
kind of similar
totally
what we
different.
want to
It's
do.
inside.
It is
But-
different, but you shouldn't be, pointing us out. We don't even know who you are, so.
I'm just
No.
not pointing you out. I'm
All
just saying,
right.
we did
It's
this at
okay.
Nelson Bay. We
No.
did this
All
at
right.
Everler Places.
We're all
So-
businesses here. We should work together.
Yeah,
That's not what I meant.
So I'm trying to
Well, it sounded you were pointing fingers, but.
No, that's not what it
No.
was saying. It was saying I work with a lot of those people.
that's just her tone.
well, yeah,
Alright.
that's
Strong
a,
voice.
that
No worries.
that was clearly a bad analogy, because in essence, if something, if all, for instance, if all winter long, you would have been having sales like this going on inside Goose and Twigs, that would have been your prerogative and inside Goose and Twigs instead of whatever else you were doing.
Yeah, I just started working here in December, so it was kind of a work in progress.
Okay.
Let me, Hannah, you mentioned options a little while ago. For starters, as the Plan Commission is going to have to vote on what was presented to us here, okay?
Yeah.
And then, there may be options to present that you could go down in a similar manner. And I would just say that I think at this time it's best we've got Amy's report. We've got commentary from commission members. Do we have any other Plan Commission members that have any further discussion or questions or comments on this?
From what I can tell, this fits right in with the code that we adjusted last year, and in particular, that incident we talked about at the Door Hotel. So currently, we do not allow this.
That's
Now,
true.
maybe we should at another time, but right now, we do not allow it.
That's true.
So I move that we deny.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed is Nate. Okay. Motion carried. As far as options, based on subset 6 of the village code that we referenced, where any type of pop-up market with tent, etc., would be permissible during village-wide special events, and seeing as how one of the dates you had offered in your proposal, ladies, was for Marina Fest weekend, I would mention there to be options for doing this as you envision with tents during Marina Fest, and that would be simply getting a tent permit. Getting a permit to do so would be a matter to bring to the village board directly. And if you are interested in the option of doing this during Fall Fest, then you would deal directly with SBAA regarding a permit to do it during Fall Fest.
So what about not having tents?
We already talked about that.
Yeah. So we could have it inside.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Control yourself.
I'm sorry. This pisses me off.
Okay, we will move on to business item number 2, which is a discussion regarding and a review of the seating chart and the revised parking plan that were submitted by Tim Radwin for Time Restaurant and Catering, 1211 Wine Bar and Provisions, which establishment is located at 10339 State Highway 57, as well as discussion regarding and review of the plans for the shared use parking area that will be created on the corner of the past property that has been assigned a parcel number of 18100-083-12833K2. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Amy?
Thank you. This application was on the last Plan Commission meeting on April 26th. A seating chart and a revised parking plan were submitted and reviewed. Part of that plan, there was a description of shared parking with the Historical Society, but we did not receive a copy of that agreement or any verification that that arrangement was happening. So the item was tabled by the Plan Commission. It's back on this evening. The applicant has submitted a letter from the Sister Bay Historical Society, and that's included in your packet. The applicant does meet the parking code with parking on site, on their site at 10339. So they do not need additional parking to meet our code requirements or to meet Sister Bay's code requirements, but are still entering an agreement with Historical Society to have that additional overflow parking on site there. So let me just scroll down here just to familiarize yourself again. The site 10339, the Historical Society, the adjacent parcel. This is a letter from Sister Bay. And the one thing I did mention in the staff report is that the Historical Society does have a different zoning district. It is zoned P1 Park and Recreation. Under that zoning section 66-04202F, parking lots shall be surfaced in all zoning districts other than P1, R1, R3, R4, and CS1. So I am recommending approval of the parking agreement even without an agreement that'll be recorded, because they do meet the parking on site. They do meet the parking code. So anything they're proposing is additional and above and beyond what is required in the zoning code. And that concludes my report.
Commission members, any discussion, comments, questions?
We got what we asked for.
Can we talk about screening though? If I'm looking at 660403, they should, unless I'm interpreting wrong, they have over 20 spaces, so they should have in-lot landscaping.
Yes.
And then there should be screening from the street, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yes, that is correct. And that was a condition at the last Plan Commission, and it should be included here as well. Parking lot screening and landscaping requirements under that section. So any of the requirements that are listed in that specific section in the zoning code should be met with this parking plan.
Okay.
So yes, that is
And
true, and that is a condition of approval.
And I could not tell on my packet, page 37 and 38, the drawings. I can't, it doesn't look like that's noted, that the screening and landscaping is noted, or am I not witnessing it properly?
I'm not
In other
seeing
words,
it. I'm seeing it on the one side, probably towards the city, but there is none between them and 57.
That is correct. They'll have to revise this plan to meet the code requirements, and that's a condition of the approval.
Okay.
Hi, Carl from Time Cuisine. We are planning on doing a bush screening across the front along the highway for the property. I don't think it shows it on the plan, but it will be done.
Before the season, because it's getting there close.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we should have some kind of a plan for it though, so that we can approve it.
Okay, we can get that to you then.
so Amy, my question for you, Amy, is in addition to that approval that will be required that Ron just mentioned, under your bullet number 2, any additional recommended to approve, considering any additional village approvals,
Correct.
that would be the additional approval we're aware of at this time.
The
correct?
landscaping, correct.
Yeah, okay.
And then any future, any other permits that are needed related to this project, any building permits, anything additional. That's just a, statement that I would add to any approval conditions.
I will motion that we approve Amy's recommendation as noted, with the expectation that we receive the parking lot screening and landscaping design requirements for us to review at the June Plan Commission meeting. Do we have a second?
I'm thinking that we should, I know
Or
we should
different-
approve it at the next meeting, Rob, but I think in the interim, there should be some planting done, that it should be
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
instigated and started.
We'll have it done before
Okay.
then.
All right, so hearing no second and based on Marge's comment, do we have consensus that we should wait and that we should move this to a June agenda item? And with some visuals that can be done ahead of time to know that this has been taken care of?
I'm more comfortable with that.
Okay, so,
I would rather see that than do an approval right now.
okay. Anyone else, commission members?
I'm just a little frustrated. This is the third time they've been here and they still haven't addressed this. So, one more meeting, fine, but this has been something we've asked for before.
I agree, David. That's a good point.
So what's the motion? We're
But
gonna,
we won't need a motion. We're going to
just
table
gonna-
this we're going to table this for the June Plan Commission agenda with the expectation that the screening and landscaping requirements will be in place.
okay.
Okay. Moving on to item number 3. Discussion regarding,
Excuse me. Do you also want a formal plan for parking on the corner of the past property at that time?
No.
I don't see that in the recommendation from Amy.
And that's going to be overflow parking. So,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 3, discussion regarding and review of the development agreement for the 11-unit motel rental unit Richard and Jeannie Hoffman will be constructing on parcel number 181000631218844P, which is located on Chalet Lane. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. And
Hello.
Amy, I'll turn this one over to you. It's page 41 in our packets, commission members.
Thank you. Let me just share this. Okay, this item was approved at the last Plan Commission meeting as well. This is the development agreement. All of the conditions that were part of the motion from the Plan Commission would be included in this development agreement. And let's see, I can bring up the location map just so we can acclimate ourselves to where it is. Chalet Lane, the proposal for the 11-unit motel. And that concludes my report. This is the development agreement.
Commission members, any discussion, comments?
This is Richard Hoffman. I'm sorry, my camera decided not to work right now about 2 minutes ago, so I apologize, but hopefully you can all hear me okay. The only issue that our builder, Bayland Buildings, brought up, there were a couple items noted. The color of the siding, type of material, and so on, for the balconies, the siding, the trim, the shingles, were on the prior plan that I submitted before the last meeting, so perhaps the most recent one was not in the packets, but I have sent that on to Amy and Janelle with the information. And also on page 19, it states that a 22-foot wide driveway would be included. That also was decreased prior to approval at the last meeting to an 18-foot wide driveway. And then the last items are on page 22, and it's regarding a performance bond and a bid bond. And again, Brian with Bayland said they were not required to do that, and have only had to do that for hospitals and schools.
Does that mean we can't require it?
That's not what I'm saying, and they just said they've never seen it on a project such as this.
Where is that on 22?
Yeah, it states performance bond and bid bond.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, members, but this has been in the standard verbiage. I don't remember not requiring this for anybody else.
Right. Right. And
And
Bayland
if I
is
could just
still
say,
up. Go ahead.
sorry, Marge.
That's okay.
I
Go
was just
ahead.
going to say, I obviously haven't built anything here in the village prior to this, but I'm just basing it on his statements, and he would have been on the call, but as I've mentioned to Marjorie and Amy, I was just made aware of this meeting, unfortunately, this morning. So they were not able to join the call. I'm just basing it on his comments.
If this is our standard form and everybody else has been required to do it, he should be also.
I agree.
Yep.
And I agree with that also. I'm just stating, again, what Brian from Bayland said, and he's built, as you know, quite a few different properties here in the village.
Okay.
Commission members, any other further discussion?
Yes, yes, there is. This is Andrew Hendrickson.
Yeah, I'm asking the commission members at this point, Andrew.
Okay, I'll wait my turn.
Okay.
Okay, Rich, no, I'm sorry, what page did you say that was on about the driveway?
Page 19.
Okay. I'm just taking note of the required changes, so that should be, what are you saying? An
18 feet wide instead of 22 feet.
Okay.
And that's okay with Chris Heck, with Chief Heck?
Correct, yes.
And
Do we have anything in writing from him?
where do we have that in writing?
I certainly he would take that. We walked the property together prior to the last meeting, and he said 18 feet would be more than enough. So I can request that from him.
Okay,
I think we should have that in writing.
22 feet wide was the expectation. So going from 22 feet as expected to any other less of a width is something that's going to require a written statement.
Certainly. We can leave it at 22 feet if you're okay with that, and pending a written determination from Chris Hecht.
I think we still need the right in writing.
Let's just have it pending getting something in writing from Chris. Let's not say 22 feet, let's go with 18 feet, and it shouldn't be a big deal if Chris has already agreed to it. That should be a pretty minor formality. And
I believe 18 feet was shown last month on the plans.
was.
Correct? Yes.
Correct.
This isn't a
Yes.
change this evening. This is what the Plan Commission saw last month.
All right.
I think we should still get it in writing, just to have
Yeah.
it there, unless that's a real big issue to you, Richard.
I agree, Nate. We need it in writing.
Okay.
Okay, we have a few residents who are waiting to make a comment during this time. I am going to allow those comments. I'm going to ask you in advance to please make your point, and we will listen to you. And who would like to go first?
I'll go first. I'm Andrew Hendrickson at 10649 Chalet Lane. A little history of Chalet Lane is that it's a shared private road. It's currently 9 feet wide. It was constructed in 1963 to be a shared driveway for 4 residential homes. 3 of the 4 people on Chalet Lane would like to have an alternate entrance and exit for the proposed unit on the open lot on Chalet Lane. In other words, not to use Chalet Lane as an entrance or an exit. The reason being is the traffic flow and the increased amount of people that are coming on a private road that we all have ownership of. So we're asking that an alternative entrance and exit be investigated and looked into.
Thank you for your point, Andrew. And I would offer this to Amy for clarification as well, but are you certain you do not, you indicated you have ownership of that road. Are you saying you have use of that private road?
We've had use of all 4 owners have use of the private road, and they've had use from the private road since it was built.
Right,
And
but you don't have ownership of that road deeded to you.
it's in our deed, yes.
As an easement or a use?
And it's also a dead end road. Use and shared and as a shared drive.
Does that mean you maintain it? You plow it?
We plow we plow it. We don't have any, the only public service that we have on it is sewer and water.
Thank you.
We pay for the plowing and the maintenance.
And it's not paved, is it?
The beginning is paved, yes, but
The
beyond
entrance.
the entrance, it's not paved at all. It's gravel.
Do the Hoffmans have permission to use your private road?
We use it, yeah. We all drive up and down the road to get to our private residence.
It's the only way to get to our residence.
So that's the only way to get to the lot that the Hoffmans wish to build on.
Actually, it is not. There are alternate routes to be investigated and to be considered. It's not the only route to get into the commercial property behind the Hoffman's house. There could be a road put in parallel to the Frickman Gallery that would be on the Hoffman's lower part that goes in front of the commercial. It used to be Hagedorn's
Right.
photography studio. There is
remember.
access that comes off of Meadow Lane that goes to that commercial property. There could be a road built that would be similar to what goes up toward the Door of Life Church to where the Hoffmans live, and it would be all on their property. So we'd like to have that as a consideration. In other words, using Chalet Lane interrupts our quality of life. The reason how we found out about this was after the Plan Commission meeting a month ago, a man drove down Chalet Lane in his red pickup truck and drove through our private property on one of the paths that I built. And when I went out to confront him, he told me he was looking to see where the new road on Chalet Lane was going to be. And we've had other people that have done the same thing. So we've had to put up barricades to keep people from driving on our property.
Weren't the property owners notified, Janelle?
No, we were not.
You were not.
In a public hearing.
Just by
There's
the
no
public.
notification.
Yeah,
For
of course. I'm
example,
sorry. Okay.
about 10 years ago, when we built a garage up on Chalet Lane, and the old administrator, Zeke, recommended that we get all the adjoining property owners to sign a letter agreeing for us to build it, which we did. And they all agreed, Jody and Tony,
Yes.
the Shannons, the Tevets, all knew that we were going to build a garage because we needed a variance because of the ordinance for the village of Sister Bay. So we drafted a letter and had everybody aware that we were going to be doing that garage, and it's all set back and everything. But that's why this is a shared driveway. We don't want public access to our shared driveway that we've been using. We bought this place in 1990, and with the understanding that Chalet Lane was to remain a private road. And it is in our property description.
Am I correct to say, Andrew, that there's nothing in your property descriptions that puts any restrictions on any other development or homes with access to that road being built?
Well, other than it's to remain a private road, we do have a lawyer who is reviewing the documents, and he is requesting that we see the final proposal before this goes any further.
And a comment.
And comments on exploring other options for the entrance to the proposed unit for the rental properties. He wasn't able to be on the Zoom tonight, but he is involved.
Do we have any other comments from citizens pertaining to this item?
Well, I would just like to add, my name is Jody Ecke, by the way. I'm at 10659 Chalet Lane, and I'm in full agreement with Andy Hendrickson. This is a private road, and we do not want any commercial types of vehicles or cars on our private road. And I would like to add, we were never notified in any way of this situation until Andy Hendricks contacted me. Thank
But
you.
you were aware that that lot was zoned differently than your lots.
I was aware it was zoned commercial, and I was aware it was bought a year or so back, and it was the home, a residence, was turned into somewhat of a rental unit, but that was a home, a residence. It was not a hotel. It was not a multi-unit complex with with a lot more cars. It was, which was very different in my eyes.
And may
Yes,
I
I just
something? There was no augmentation to the driveway itself. The driveway remained what it has always been
Yes.
from the very beginning. And of course, it is a private road. And you would think that people would be notified. The proper way to do something like this is to talk to people, let them know what's going on. And then, of course, there's other options that are readily available that would not interfere with our privacy and our private road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I have your name, sir?
Hello, I'm Jody Ecke.
I'm asking for the gentleman's name.
Oh,
I'm Anton Bild. I'm Jody's husband.
Okay, Anton, could you spell your last name for me, please?
Yes, B-I-L-D.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to make a comment if I can.
Yes, sir.
Richard Twite. We are on 10637 Chalet Lane. And I just want to say that I'm in full agreement with Andy's comments and the other comments that have been made. And I would just like to echo the email comment that was read at the outset of this meeting, is that we find it a little odd that all this planning and improving has happened without any of our knowledge when it comes to a road that we own.
I have a question. Is this road listed with the village as a private road?
Yes, it is.
We receive no village services, no garbage, no mail, no snow plowing.
We do have sewer and water.
Yes, I know, but I'm just curious how it's listed with the village, you know, in general on our overlay.
It's not general, it's specifically a private road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion or comments from commission members?
Am I allowed to make a quick comment also?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Okay, so I'm Rollin Twite. I'm Richard's brother, 10637 Chalet Lane. I just want to say I'm in full agreement with all the comments that have been made so far. But also I'd like to bring up the point that regarding the commercial property and the associated lot next to it, originally that was, at least from my time point, Bernie Hagedorn's house. And he had it listed commercial because of the lower driveway could come into his photo studio down below. So we always had 4 residents on the house until it recently sold. And the commercial property was brought into the lower side, not on our private drive at all. So we've never had any commercial activity on our private drive until this point.
Do any commission members have a motion they would like to offer at this time?
If you're going to close the floor to public comment or public input, I guess I have a couple things I'd like to say here. One, it is zoned commercial. I don't think that we have a reason to not allow this because it is a permitted use there. And 2, it is a private road, so I don't know why the village would get in there as far as what's going on the use of the road. I can sympathize with your concerns, but fundamentally, it's a commercial lot on a private road. I don't see where the village gets in the middle of that.
Do we have a motion?
Give me one moment, I'll call it one. I'll make a motion that we approve with the stipulations that Amy had included in her recommendations.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Aye.
Okay, the nays have it 3-2. This is not approved at this time. And we thank everyone for their comments this evening on this, and we'll move on to item number 4. A report from Plan Commission member David Schmitz regarding the research that he did with respect to the sound monitoring equipment that could be utilized by village officials and or staff members. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Thank you. And also thank you to Heidi, who came in, and also Vivian, who gave me some additional information. So at our last meeting, I was asked to talk a little, do some more looking at devices and enforcement. I have been on a couple of different organizational websites that actually deal with noise, and they accumulate information from around the country, which was very helpful. I've also spoken directly to 2 different sound engineers from the greater Milwaukee area that had some use with this. In also, as I was getting into this a little bit deeper, part of the problem that I believe that we have here is that we have a zoning code that says 30.08 that allows 85. We have development agreements that say 75, but also allow noise to go on after 11 o'clock at night. And then there's also a letter that Zeke put together back in, was that 15? Yeah, that a bunch of the liquor licensees signed. I think it's probably, we have a case here where we need to standardize for sure in the B3 and take a hard look also at the other ones. So in general, and this is just real quick going through here, all of the people I've talked to said that having objective versus subjective ordinances are good. We have effectively an objective one where we say we actually give a number. For instance, Bailey Harbors says it can't be a nuisance. Well, of course, that's just something, yeah, right. Actually, somebody forwarded me one from Appleton. They said, any noise that bothers somebody. So I thought that would be just a great litigation, wouldn't it? So anyways, and all of them also do allow for special occasions, and like we do have places. I can tell you, and I've got a bunch of charts here from all over the state and the country. Generally speaking, 60 to 85 has been the level of dBs, and majority are at 75 to 70. One of the things we need to consider, and again, the changing nature of our B3 district in particular, when sound bounces off a hard-sided building, it is not stopped. In fact, there is no, unless it is an absorbing material, which none of the buildings downtown have, it just keeps going. And that's why when we have some of the larger concerts, you're hearing the noise all over the town. Now, granted, we can't take down those buildings, but I think by lowering the standards a little bit, we won't have the overlap that we currently have downtown. I will also say most of the places that I looked at, including B3s and residential, and I'm sorry, and commercial districts, have a hard no noise time, which means, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, whatever. I go back to what I'm saying, I said last week. Right now, the B3 district, by the end of this summer, will have probably 4 times the amount of residents, or sorry, lodging establishments from when we started first allowing sound outside years ago at Husby's. And I think we have to take into account that we now have more and more, and there is an expectation. Yes, these people have built condos, hotels in an entertainment district. Okay, so that's like going next to an airport. But at the same time, they're bringing in families and they need to sleep. So I'm still going to recommend not only do we go for a lower standard, we do a hard stop at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, the B3. In terms of measurement devices, if you remember, Nate quickly found a device online last week. Well, as it turns out, in fact, that thing keeps coming up on my Google every time I go on it. That is a particular device that's really nice for people that have short-term rentals. It needs Wi-Fi, it needs to be inside. So if you have a short-term rental and you're worried about your residents, making too much noise, smoking, all the other stuff, it goes up. The end of the story is remote devices for outdoor use are extremely expensive, or you have to have a sound engineer who comes in at several $100s a piece. So if you want to have measurement, you're usually going to have to go to some sort of a handheld unit, most of which you can get for under $200, and they're very, very accurate. In fact, most current iPhones are very accurate at 75 dB and above.
Wow.
That's so. In fact, there's one of the engineers I used when he went in, unless he is going for a very, very specific problem where, like, for instance, there's a building next door with a turbine or something, they're trying to really pin down what frequency. Half the time he uses his iPhone because you're just trying to dial in where you want to be. However, either the city or SBAA do have a handheld monitor that is calibrated. Right. Now, in terms of enforcement, there are 3 different things that I've been able to find. Obviously, the 3 are police, health department / city officials, and citizen groups. The majority of people use police. Now, the pros are they're already on staff 24/7. They can deal with the disturbance of that. So if the disturbance is more than just noise, they can do it because they have enforcement powers. Okay. The con, though, is they would rather deal with crime, and many times they're scarcely deployed. AKE Northern Door County, where we have one sheriff who's covering, as I understand it, up in our neck of the woods, we have, one patrol car covering a very, very large hunk of land. Health department officials, that's the second way. It allows the police, the pros is it allows police to focus on crime. The cons are generally they're not on staff 24/7. So they can't, and also if there was a quote, let's say it was a bar brawl that was making the noise, they can't enforce it versus the police could. However, many cities have decided that to alleviate the police problem, they do have one of their staffers occasionally get paid overtime and walk around with a sound meter, and they can enforce recommendations. There were 2 cities that had citizen groups. Obviously, the pros was they were available and they're free. The cons were, generally speaking, people don't want them to have powers of enforcement. Therefore, they would still have to call somebody. For instance, right now on the weekend, if we have a parking problem in the city, I'm not sure who we call. Does anybody have a ticket book anymore or not? Or do we have to get the sheriff?
No, there are individuals that have been designated to issue parking citations.
Okay, so we could do the same. My recommendation would be we would have to do the same with if we had noise violations, because again, right now, we talked about this a couple of years ago when we were talking about masks. To get the sheriff up here to handle a noise problem sounds like a great idea, but if they're in Fish Creek or over in Bailey's Harbor, it's just allowed to travel for them.
Hold on, Dave. Something I want to throw out there. The sheriff's department will not enforce local ordinances.
They will not?
They will not enforce village ordinances. And Rob, I think you've probably run into that. I know Denise has run into it in the past.
Okay. Yeah. So then it's on us whether or not we want, if we have an ordinance, that how we enforce it. I'm still going to recommend that we try to stabilize the noise ordinance across, we've got these 3 different things out there. Even with our zoning code, non-noise, we have an issue with enforcement. I think we have 2 different issues here. We have to write good ordinances, and then secondly, we need to deal with the problem of, for instance, we don't have a full-time zoning administrator now who is going around and looking at various sites, if they're doing things. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. Dave, thanks so much for doing all that. That's grand. We learned a lot.
So the question would be, do we want to move forward and try to normalize the various ordinances across the village?
We need to simplify, and you've come up with the answer.
Okay.
I think we need to consider a plan commission work session on what, the development of a draft of a revised, ordinance structure would be. Bringing that in the manner you mentioned, Dave. The other thing that I think we need to consider too as well is, do we, when it comes to enforcement or monitoring, do we, along with that, do we want to consider, or as part of it, do we want to consider, for lack of a better way to identify it, a village employee to be hired, similar to, season comes, we hire people to work at the marina and ride the carts around and take care of things in the park, etc. Do we want to have, a part-time village employee that, we entrust with, monitoring,
Enforcing.
yeah, and enforcing, and or at least being there to, be doing the measurements so that proactively we are knowing if something is going on, and then they're the point person that tells that establishment, you're 10 decibels over, or you're 20 decibels over, or whatever, lower it down, then they can take a reading and see that it's brought in line. Go ahead, Nate.
I think that we could go ahead and work on this ordinance. I do think that, one, it should be stated, because I don't know if the plan commission knows that we do have a full-time administrator now that's starting in June. I think that we should work on this ordinance and then also work on the enforcement part. I see this as way more than just enforcement needed for the noise ordinance or any potential noise ordinance. We have a lack of enforcement. So for all the ordinances we have on the books that aren't enforced, what's adding another one? It doesn't mean that much. So, but I don't think that's a reason we shouldn't start working on this anyway, and then work with that new administrator to figure out what the best methodology is moving forward as far as enforcement and employment.
I agree, Nate. We need to.
Yeah, I agree also, Nate.
Yep.
Okay, so we have consensus that we'll move this forward with the zoning administrator when they come on board?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's say the village administrator. I mean, I know it's the same person, but in this case, would be looking more for the village administration side for enforcement.
So are we going?
It's from now moving forward as of June. It's the same. It's the village and zoning administrator.
So we're going back to one person versus two?
Correct.
Okay.
But I do think this is a priority. And thanks, Dave, for doing all you did.
You're welcome. I actually have a draft ordinance that I can share with that person to at least have something to start marking up.
Good.
Because I think one of the other things that with all of the ordinances that we have, if you haven't, for instance, we had a violation on the bluff of somebody cutting trees. With any violation of a zoning code, there has to be consequences. So I think here we'd also probably have something, and I think we should think about this in the short-term rentals. If somebody has, like, I think we built this in, if there are 3 complaints against a short-term rental, I think they get fined or they lose something. I think we do the same thing with noise downtown.
In other words, put teeth into what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some challenges with having it be a substantiated complaint, because otherwise I could go next to your house and complain about you 3 times in a row. But I think that we had dealt with that in some way. I think, Rob, as far as
well, that's kind of where I was coming from with the idea of, that, because quite frankly, while the new village and zoning administrator will be crucial to this whole process, they're not going to, it's not going to be logistically feasible for them to be the person at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, or at
Right.
8 o'clock at night, maybe, monitoring or enforcing or, handling that initial lower it down and take another measurement. That's where I'm coming from when I say we need, part of this is thinking through, do we look to find the right person to hire on a part-time basis that would be, available to do this?
I think I'd like that new administrator to make their own team. And I don't think that we're gonna move that fast anyway. I can't imagine that, it could be pretty impossible to hire somebody in June, even if we wanted to go full bore.
I think you and I are saying the same thing and with different words. My point is, Julie's not, I don't believe Julie's going to logistically be capable of being the person herself to be coming out and doing the monitoring. And, and responding to.
I agree with that. And I'm saying, let's have Julie pick the person. So I think, yes.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so Janelle, if you could make a note, please, that from the Plan Commission, this item, Julie should review this item as a priority before the end of June after she comes on.
Okay.
All right. Prior to the Plan Commission June meeting.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right, item number 5, discussion regarding matters to be placed on a future agenda referred to a committee, official, or employee. Hearing none at 6:37 PM, I will motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.